when you look at a prospective Munster 23 now for this game, it's actually a little bit stronger on paper than it would have felt maybe on Monday when we were chatting about it.
For sure. I think they're going to have a strong team out still. It may affect their bench, of course, and it's far from ideal to have what is still a hefty enough injury list at this stage of the season. But like, look back to this game last November, and it'll be a very similar Munster team really in the end. O'Mahony didn't play that day. I think Ahern was at 6. Nankivell wasn't playing. There was a couple others. They didn't have Ollie Yeager, obviously, at that stage either. So it'll be actually quite a very similar team. And that was an unbelievably good game. Leinster were pretty much at full tilt. They were at full tilt. It was their strongest team, and they won 21-16. And Munster made a brilliant start, if you remember. Simon Zebo breaking through, and Ringrose just couldn't catch him as he rushed, and they link. And
Casey try.
Yeah, brilliant try. Absolutely outstanding try. I'm sure they'll be looking at that. And if you think about the end of the game as well, Conor Murray breaks down the left-hand touchline, Munster in the 22, pushing for a winning converted try. And Caelan Doris comes up with what are now the regular kind of game-defining steals to keep Leinster on the winning side of the scoreline. It was an enthralling match, and it shows what Munster can do. Of course, Leinster are favourites. I think they're 13-point favourites. And like, you look at the team sheet of last weekend, you look at what it's going to be again this weekend. It's incredibly imposing and intimidating. But Munster have a blueprint there for testing them. They'll, like, Prendergast will feel he can find holes in that Neen Aberdeen, and they'll try to kick smarter. I think you look at the game at Christmas, it was 9-3 to Leinster. It was a horrible day. It was piss and rain. It wasn't a classic, and actually it wasn't the first choice Leinster team for that one. But the conditions made it that you had to kick well, and Leinster did edge that. They didn't kick brilliantly all the time either, but they edged it. They had 66% territory, I think, in that game, and Munster just weren't able to get into position to tack on points on the scoreboard. And Leinster were able to do that. So I'm sure lessons from that one as well. But again, it was a real close battle, and I suppose that's the way this game has increasingly gone. I'm sure Leinster have utter motivation to show that they're still kings and there's a gap, and that on the big occasion in Croke Park with a massive crowd, they'll deliver something really spectacular maybe. But it's still early for them. This team has had one game against Benetton to get rhythm, and the first half was really impressive. I thought they defended brilliantly as well throughout the game. So that was a fine tune up, but I don't think Munster will be going despondent. They'll go with, a fair belief that they can really test Leinster as they did a year ago.
Yeah, the Thomond games over the last couple of years have been absolutely poisonous. Probably some correlation with the weather there, James. The Aviva Dublin games, let's say, have been a lot more free-flowing and probably, let's say, subjectively entertaining, because some people do enjoy a good phone booth war. But on Premier Sports, you made the point in comms that you felt as though you were starting to see a little bit more of that Nienaber implementation of his ideas in Leinster's defence, and some certainly a semblance of the identity that Leinster fans have wanted to see under Nienaber's stewardship. What was it that you actually identified? And if I could extend that, I'd give you kind of carte blanche. How do Munster actually go about breaking down this new-looking Leinster defence?
We'll start at the end. So every defence has its strengths and has its weaknesses. So with the blitz defence, like the heavy blitz defence, if you can get in behind, so you're always, so imagine if the ball's coming off the left, you're going to have a high line of defenders in your eye line on your right hand side. Okay, if you can take the ball to the line and you can beat or even get a soft shoulder on the defender in front of you, you can get an offload in behind those defenders that have shot past you to put pressure on. Because if you throw the pass early, they're just going to get man and ball. And we saw examples of Ringrose getting man and ball a few times, Ringrose forcing a pass and Keegan getting man and ball. But we also saw examples of when slower guys get caught on the edge and getting, one, being able to get around it with a pass, but two, when you can go through it, what that does in terms of being able to attack. But again, for the Nienaber, it's all pace in terms of putting pressure on the first couple of passes, and then if they do get a pass, it's all about how is everyone working to get back and solve the problem and then go again. So it's kind of an all or bust defensive system. I love it in terms of excitement. I think it's great. I think it's the game of the weekend was the first real time that we have seen it for 80 minutes really of intense line speed. They got beaten a few times, but again got back to their points and either made poached turnovers or forced knock-ons. Another element to it is the counter ruck, which we did see towards the end of the season. We didn't really see it in the final as much as I would have liked to have seen the last two games, but we definitely saw it in the lead up to that and what that does to teams in terms of, even for the last try, James Lowe not giving up on a ruck and just I think there's a lot of no talent moments in the defensive system where it's just hard work and grit and not making the defenders or the attacking team's life easy and allow them to exit or to play on their terms. That's a bit, again, a lot of poached turnovers. We saw, I think the back row between them had, what they have? So I think Conan had 3, Van der Fleer had 2, and Doris had 2 or 3. So that's something you would expect from an Edinburgh team. You would expect, again, backs to be coming up with steals as well. In the first few games for Leinster, I just didn't see enough poached turnovers or pressure at the ball that I would expect to see with the identity that I know the Edinburgh from watching South Africa that I'm used to seeing and that I saw on the weekend. So hopefully this is going to be the stepping stone of the standard of how they defend going forward, because it's very exciting to watch, and 2, it must be a nightmare to try attack against. But there definitely is holes in it, and Munster will come up with plays like the Sexton loop that you could talk about is a potential play in getting through it, where the defender is going to be coming around the back to hit the 10. If it's going to hit the 10 hits 12. If 12 can take it to the line and get through, he's going to have whoever's coming short off, we'll say 13, and then if 10 can also flood through on an offloading line, that's a play that could work. But the main thing is just getting getting through on it and making sure that you're not getting sucked into throwing long passes, because the longer the ball's in the air, you just get eaten alive. Another way to get around it is those wide deep passes that we saw to be so exit and get around Jack Conan, who was on the edge. And then the kind of third way is to have a really quick phase. So hit the middle and try to get them on the second phase, because if you're going off the edge and you try to get it to the other edge, you're going to get absolutely eaten alive. But if you can get it and have a really quick ruck, you can get them on the next phase, because it's very hard to blitz off midfield ruck.